The world had shrunk to a single, burning need: food. It was no longer a desire in Bella's belly, but a frantic, clawing desperation that echoed in the hollows of her ribs and the weary sag of her frame. Every scent was a potential clue, every sound a potential threat. Her world was a narrow alley behind a row of restaurants, a kingdom of overflowing dumpsters and shattered dreams. But she was no longer just Bella, a stray brindle-coated dog with one white paw. She was Mama. And in a hidden, damp recess beneath a collapsed shed at the end of the alley, tucked behind a shield of rotten timber and discarded bricks, 5 tiny, blind, and utterly dependent lives wriggled against her for warmth and milk she could no longer provide. The title "Desperate Mama Dog Begging for Food to Save Her Puppies" is not just a description, it is her entire existence. 4 days, the gnawing emptiness had been a private torment. She'd foraged, she'd scavenged, she'd fought off a territorial tomcat for a half-eaten scrap of fish. But her milk, the very river of life for her puppies, was drying up. She could feel it. Their frantic, mewling searches were growing weaker, their tiny bodies less plump. The strongest, a little male with a patch over one eye like a tiny pirate, still nuzzled with vigor, but the smallest, a delicate fawn-colored female, seemed to barely have the strength to breathe. Tonight was different. The hunger was a sharp, stabbing pain. A cold drizzle began to fall, slicking her fur and seeping into her sanctuary. The whimpers from the den were not just cries of hunger, but of cold. Despair, a feeling she'd fought for so long, began to wrap its icy fingers around her heart. She had to do something she had never done before. She had to break her most sacred rule: avoid the 2 legs. She had learned to be wary of them. Some were kind, their voices soft, their hands occasionally offering a morsel. But more were loud, unpredictable, throwing things, shouting, their heavy boots kicking out in warning. Trust was a luxury a street dog could not afford. But for her puppies, she would risk everything. She nuzzled each of her sleeping babies, licking the small pirate-patched one with extra fervor, as if imprinting his scent on her soul in case she did not return. Then, with a resolve that straightened her trembling legs, she slipped out from under the shed and into the misty, neon-washed alley. Her first target was the usual one, the dumpster behind Giovanni's pizzeria. The scent of garlic, oregano, and baked dough was usually a siren's call. But tonight, it was tightly sealed, a hulking metal beast that offered no entry. She circled it, whining softly, scratching at its cold, unyielding side. Nothing. Next was the golden dragon. The smells of soy sauce and fried food were tantalizing. She saw a busbar emerge, carrying a large black bag. Hope surged in her chest. He swung the bag towards the dumpster, but it caught on the lid, ripping open. A cascade of noodles, rice, and bits of something unidentifiable spilled onto the wet asphalt. Bella didn't wait. She darted forward, her tail tucked so far between her legs it brushed her belly. But just as her mouth closed around a clump of sticky rice, the busbar saw her. "Shoo! Get out of here, mutt!" he yelled, flinging a ladle in her direction. It clattered harmlessly beside her, but the fear was a physical blow. She scrambled back, the few bites she'd managed to snatch doing nothing to quell the storm in her stomach. For hours, it was the same story. Rejection, danger, failure. The rain intensified, soaking her to the bone. She was shivering, her paws sore, her spirit breaking. She found a discarded hamburger bun, soggy and tasteless, but she swallowed it whole. It was like throwing a pebble into a canyon. It was then, in the deepest pit of her hopelessness, that she saw a different kind of light. It wasn't the harsh, flickering neon of the restaurants, but a soft, warm, golden glow from a small house set a little way back from the main street, at the end of the alley. It had a small, fenced yard. And from an open window, a scent drifted out that made her saliva glands ache. It was the rich, savory, unmistakable aroma of roasting chicken. This was it. The final gamble. This house was deep in 2 legs territory. It meant a gate, a door, direct confrontation. But that smell, it was life. It was milk. It was the strength for her puppies to see another sunrise. She crept towards the chain-link fence. The gate was closed, but not latched. A gentle nudge with her nose and it swung inward with a soft, metallic creak. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to hide, to return to the shadows where it was safe. But the image of her 5 tiny babies, their breaths growing fainter, pushed her forward. She crossed the small, neat lawn, her wet paws leaving dark prints on the grass. The scent was pouring from the kitchen window. She reached the back door. There was a glass pane at the top. Gathering every ounce of her courage, she rose onto her hind legs, her front paws scraping weakly against the wood, and peered inside. A 2-legs female was there. She had kind eyes, Bella thought, or maybe it was just the desperate hope coloring her perception. The woman was moving around the kitchen, humming, pulling a perfectly golden brown chicken from the oven. The sight was almost too much to bear. This was the moment. The begging. The act that went against every fiber of her wild being. She couldn't bark, a bark might be seen as a threat. So she did the only thing she could. She let out a soft, high-pitched whine, a sound so full of pure, unadulterated pleading that it cut through the hum of the refrigerator. The woman turned. Her eyes widened in surprise. Bella flinched, ready to drop and flee, but she held her ground. She met the woman's gaze and whined again, this time letting her head droop. Her entire body language screaming of submission and desperation. She was not a threat. She was a supplicant. The woman approached the door slowly. Bella's muscles tensed, a coiled spring of fear and hope. The door didn't open with a violent swing. It opened just a crack, and the woman's face appeared. She didn't shout. She didn't have a weapon. She just looked, her expression shifting from surprise to curiosity, and then, miraculously, to compassion. "Oh, you poor, soaked thing," the woman whispered, her voice a balm to Bella's terrified soul. Bella took a chance. She lowered her head further, tucking her tail, and let out the softest, most pathetic whimper yet. Then, she did something she hadn't done since she was a pup herself. She took a hesitant step forward and gently licked the woman's fingers where they rested on the doorframe. It was a gesture of trust, of surrender. The woman's heart melted. "Are you hungry, girl? Wait here." She disappeared back into the kitchen. The wait was an eternity. Every second, Bella expected a man with a broom to appear, or the door to slam shut. But instead, the woman returned. And in her hands was not a scrap, not a leftover, but a large, clean bowl. And in that bowl was a generous portion of that beautiful, roasted chicken, mixed with some soft, cooked potatoes. She placed it on the ground just outside the door. The smell was overwhelming. Bella's hunger roared back to life, a primal force. But even then, her mama instinct overrode everything. She didn't devour it. She looked at the woman, her eyes brimming with a gratitude she couldn't vocalize, then gently took the largest piece of chicken in her mouth. It was warm, juicy, and perfect. She turned and ran. "Wait," the woman called out, surprised. But Bella didn't stop. She dashed through the open gate, the precious meat held securely but gently in her jaws. She flew down the alley, a phantom in the rain, her mission the only thing that mattered. She ignored the other food smells, the puddles, the cold. She had the prize. She scrambled under the shed, her body trembling with exertion and anticipation. The puppies, hearing her return, set up a weak, hopeful chorus. She nudged her way into the den and immediately lay down. The little pirate was the first to find a nipple, but this time, as he suckled, Bella felt the miracle happen. The warmth of the food, the rich nourishment, sparked her body back into production. Milk began to flow. She let the other puppies latch on, their frantic pushing bringing her a joy so profound it eclipsed all the fear and pain of the night. Only when they were all settled, nursing with a vigor she hadn't felt in days, did she allow herself to eat the piece of chicken she'd carried. She chewed it slowly, savoring every bite, feeling the strength return to her limbs. But her story wasn't over. The memory of the kind woman, the bowl of food, was a beacon. The next evening, as dusk fell, Bella returned to the house. She didn't have to beg this time. The woman, whose name was Sarah, was waiting. She had seen the desperation in Bella's eyes the night before and had suspected there was more to the story than a hungry stray. She had the bowl ready again, this time with kibble mixed with more chicken. Bella ate gratefully, this time on the doorstep. Sarah sat on the step a few feet away, talking to her in a soft, soothing voice. "Where are you going, girl? Where do you run off to?" This ritual continued for 3 days. Bella would eat, then disappear into the gloom. Sarah, a gentle soul who worked from home as a graphic designer, grew more and more concerned. On the 4th day, as Bella finished her meal and turned to leave, Sarah made a decision. She stood up slowly. "Okay, girl," she said softly. "Show me." Bella paused, looking back at her. There was a silent communication, a bond forged from kindness and shared food. Bella took a few steps, then stopped, looking back again as if to say, "Are you coming?" Sarah's heart leapt. She grabbed a flashlight and a light jacket and followed. It was a slow, meandering journey through the alley, Bella stopping every few feet to ensure Sarah was still behind her. They reached the collapsed shed. Bella ducked underneath. Sarah's breath hitched. Was this her home? This damp, dangerous hole? She got on her knees, ignoring the wet gravel soaking through her jeans, and shone the flashlight into the darkness. The beam of light fell upon a scene that would be etched into her memory forever. There, on a bed of old rags and dried leaves, lay the brindle dog, and curled against her, nursing contentedly, were 5 fat, healthy, sleeping puppies. One of them, a little fellow with a patch over his eye, momentarily stopped suckling in his sleep and let out a tiny, milky sigh. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes. It all made sense now. The desperate begging, the frantic runs back into the night. This wasn't just a stray. This was a heroine. This was a mother who had moved heaven and earth, who had conquered her own deepest fears, to save her children. "Oh, you brave, brave girl," Sarah whispered, her voice thick with emotion. She didn't disturb them. She simply backed away, her mind already racing with plans. The next morning, she returned with a large, sturdy dog crate, a soft blanket, and a friend to help. It took patience and trust, coaxing Bella with more chicken, but eventually, the mama dog, sensing the profound safety this 2 legs offered, allowed herself to be guided into the crate. One by one, Sarah gently placed the puppies inside with her. They were carried out of the darkness of the alley and into the warm, bright light of Sarah's home. Bella, for the first time in her life, slept on a soft bed in a corner of the living room, her belly full, her body warm and clean, her puppies safe and snuggled against her. The desperate begging was over. The fear was gone. The little pirate-patched pup, who Sarah named Jack, grew into a mischievous and loyal dog. His delicate fawn-colored sister, Daisy, became a gentle lapdog. All the puppies found loving homes, vetted and chosen carefully by Sarah. And Bella? She never left Sarah's side. The dog who had begged for food to save her puppies now had a forever home, a name, and a love so deep it healed all the old wounds of the alley. She was no longer just a desperate mama dog. She was Bella, the hero, the survivor, and finally, a beloved friend. Her story, which began with a whimper in the rain, ended with the contented sigh of a creature who had finally, truly, come home.